What's going on, world? It's your boy at Big Game James. Oh, excuse me, underscore 36. And this is Big Games BS brought to you by Dim Media Group, presented by thehumidor.com. Go to thehumidor.com for all your cigar needs, whether it be lighters, cutters, top-notch cigars. They're cheap, the cheapest you could get, but we're gonna make it cheaper. Type in sports, then at checkout, you get 20% off. And if you get over $150, you get free shipping. So if you enjoy cigars, that's where you need to go. The only other acceptable place to be able to get cigars in the United States is at Goodfellas Cigar Lounge, which allows us to host this. We just did a big charity weekend for the MFTK Foundation. A lot of people don't know what MFTK stands for. It's a tongue-in-cheek duality thing. It started off with me basically using it for recruiting. When people ask me, James, why come this kid doesn't want to come here? Or what is this kid doing? Or blah, blah, blah. And I would just always state, man, fuck them kids. And as long as, and then it kind of became a joke as I go through, a lot of things you guys get to experience with me on social media. As you see me, try to do this fatherhood thing right with my sons on a daily basis, man. My kids try me. And I love them to death. But sometimes if you've been around kids for long enough, man, and you haven't had to say, man, fuck them kids, then you ain't around them enough. I just tell you that much. But the other side of it is this, I do a lot of stuff in the community. And this was my opportunity to kind of make sure I get the tax write-off and make sure that a lot of people who want to help support me, they get their tax write-off. So it's called Mentors for the Kids. And that's how I do my book bag drives. We got a STEM camp coming up. We have food distributions that we do, Christmas gifts, study halls, different things that we do for kids in the Big Bend and the First Coast communities, as well as trying to help partner with other ones that have done stuff with people in Savannah, done stuff with Freddie Stevenson down in Polk County. But this weekend we had a benefit, the whole weekend, a portion of the proceeds went there. So you'll see some stuff on social media with me and my partner, Scott Hendricks, where we'll post up about, the check and make sure and so everybody who basically came out here, partied, drank, had a good time, felt young again. Appreciate you guys doing your things. Big weekend overall in general, in a crazy weekend at that. A lot of different things to go into, multiple hate o'clocks that we'll get into. But we're going to start it off with this. I believe the drops happened on Friday, if I'm correct. Or maybe it was Saturday. But the Jaguars and the NFL released the schedules for the upcoming season. I think the NFL missed a golden opportunity from a marketing perspective by not having this be a big online social media event. And I'm sure they're going to take people's advice and bite this idea, but they should have had all 32 teams, like basically almost in the draft order, announce give their schedule release. Some people did some really creative things. The Seattle Seahawks did a fake schedule release for their players. Basically gave them the worst schedule ever, where they were traveling. They were away on every major holiday. So they weren't here for New Year's Eve. They weren't here for Christmas. They weren't here. They weren't home for Thanksgiving. They were on the road every week. And then, then it was a surprise. It was a joke. I think the Jags one kind of sucked, even though, shout out, they got players to narrate it. It just wasn't really a great one. The one that stole the show, though, was I want to keep calling them the San Diego Chargers, but that's what I've known them for most of my life. But the LA Chargers stole the show. I'm not an anime fan, but I know enough about it. I do like Avatar. Don't get me wrong. I love Avatar and Aang and all of them. But my son likes Naruto and all these other things. I don't even know what anime they bit this off of, but they basically did an anime for everybody on their schedule. And it was kind of cool. I won't even lie about that. They had the Jaguars. They had somebody draw a picture of Urban Meyer with the Jaguar face and being sad. And I think we played them relatively early in the season. But with all of that being said, the Jags schedule was released, and we're gonna go heavy on Jags in the beginning because this is also rookie minicamp this past weekend, and geez, I've never seen a collective um, orgasm on social media by the fan base over absolutely nothing. But we're gonna go into that, and I'm gonna give my opinions on it. And a lot of them are good, but it's just like, damn. At the end of the day, guys, you set yourselves up every year for the same shit. Forgive me and my newfound love of Bloody Marys. If you heard me just take that big ass sip, or saw me take that sip. But week one, we have the Washington Commanders. So to end last season, we beat the shit out of Carson Wentz and it crushed his hopes. To begin this season, we'll start off beating the shit out of Carson Wentz and crushing his hopes with the Washington Commanders in DC. Shoot, I might try to check that out. I like going to DC on 9/11, which is a weird date, man. Like where were you? Like I still remember, like it's one of the moments like you never forget where you're at. I never thought I would live to see one of those. And eventually I'm gonna have to, my son's gonna ask me, like, hey dad, where were you at when 9/11 happened? But whatever, that's another thing. Week 2, we got the Colts. That's one of those weird matchups. We just beat the Colts, especially at home. So week 3, you got the LA Chargers at SoFi Stadium out in LA. You got week 4, got the Eagles. I'm gonna go check out that game up in Lincoln Financial Field. You got the Texans. You got the Colts again. You got the New York Giants at home while it's still hot. The day before Halloween, All Hallows Eve, you got the Broncos in. Damn, I didn't even realize when that was in England. So this is what sucks. Like you got the Broncos with Carlton Banks, aka Russell Wilson, at the quarterback, and then you come right back home and you play the Raiders. So like that's just not like that's a tough one. Normally you want that bye week right between that, but they didn't get it. Turn around, play the Chiefs. You have the bye. You have the Baltimore Ravens, the Detroit Lions, Tennessee Titans, Dallas Cowboys at home, New York Jets, the Texans again, and you finish the season with the Tennessee Titans, which is weird that they got this to be determined, but I guess they know what day they'll have the Saturday, Sunday games. They know around what time that'll be that week 18 matchup. But 18 games, I hold steady that this is until I see something different, this is a 5 to 6 win ball club. And that's no hate. I mean, obviously there's things like you should beat the Lions. I think the Titans got better. I don't see us beating the Ravens. We're not beating the Chiefs, not beating the Raiders, not beating the Broncos. Should beat the Giants. Should beat the Colts at least once. And I think you can beat the Commanders, but there'll be a win in there or a loss, a win that we didn't expect and a loss that we didn't expect in there somewhere. But Doug Peterson's a really, really good coach, and I think they actually got some good pieces going into rookie minicamp. Man, I'll say this. I joke about the NFL draft and the combine being a combination of the most racist and most kind of gay type of time of year. And what I mean by that is you can hear in the rhetoric. You can hear guys talk about, oh, he's twitchy. He's this. They're talking about black guys when they say that. He's a hard worker, coach's son first, and they're talking about somebody white. But reason why I say it's kind of not homophobic, but kind of gay, is when you hear the reactions of how men describe some of these players and how excited they are to talk about other men and their physiques. Trayvon Walker is an impressive individual, impressively looking individual. He has arms that are long enough to where he can scratch his kneecaps just standing straight up. He doesn't have to bend over anywhere. And he's massive. He's jacked. when you actually look at him compared to Aiden Hutchinson, some of the pictures, Aiden Hutchinson looks like he has T-Rex arms, which in comparison to Trayvon Walker, which should be a little bit more difficult when it comes to going up against um, elite pass defenders in your left tackles. Trayvon doing the drills looked very powerful, very under control, very twitchy. Devin Lloyd, it didn't go quite viral, but it went viral within the Jaguars fan base of him just doing drills around trash cans. The white boy Mamua, I don't get me wrong, whatever. White boy Eminem, that's Eminem, if you will. He's from Wyoming. He's supposed to be a good athlete. A lot of the guys were in town doing drills on air in shorts with no real competition. I just want to reiterate, a lot of guys were in town doing drills on air against no competition. I'm not 100% sure what you guys expect elite athletes to look like, but you guys follow favorite college teams. You know what these guys look like. They're specimens. They look really, really good. They're in the best shape of their life. They're supposed to pop out. But I will say how heavy Trayvon Walker's hands seemed to be with the pads, how he looked in the drills were impressive. But I'm starting to wonder about some of you guys, man. I think some of you guys might have been watching these clips with a little bit of Jergens, heat warmed up Jergens at that in a nice wet wipe or paper towel, because it's kind of freaky the way you guys were describing a lot of these things and where you're going, like you're going off the rails, man. Like, again, it was great. It was great. But at the end of the day, I don't really understand why everybody is going over the top or overboard with these things. It's weird. It's a little weird to me, but this whole NFL thing is a little weird to me in general. We got I was trying to find the other things that I felt were necessary about this. So going back to the Jags schedule, obviously they have 7 home games, no bye after London, no back-to-back home games, and you're playing the entire AFC West. So you're going to see some cats, man. You're going to see it's a great quarterback play. You got Russell, you've got Herbert, you've got Carr. I'm missing somebody. Who am I missing? You got Broncos, Chargers. Oh, my bad. You got Patty Mahomes. So you got 4 of the best quarterbacks right there. So you're going to see how good this defense is out the gate. Out the gate. You're going to get a chance to see what's going on with that. Kind of going around with my Seminoles. Didn't have many guys drafted. You had Jermaine Johnson drafted first round. You had a lot of guys picked up as undrafted free agents. One of those guys, Josh Corbin, who I've done interviews with on Inside Drills, also gave him basically his only interview at the Combine. It's been standing out. Brian Dabble says, with the Giants, says he's, again, the words that I just talked about, athletic and quick twitch. He put them through some drills that they normally use for free agents and prospect workouts to get just to get a good comparison. And he actually believes that Josh Corbin will be a factor in the fall. But you can also see the way that Corbin's contract was structured. Got $210,000 in guaranteed money coming in, pretty decent signing bonus. When you look at what you sign as an undrafted free agent, you can kind of tell, what the likelihood is of you making that team. And I think Josh Corbin, his agent, his camp, picked the best stuff for him. In other NFL news, Deshaun Watson is already making an impression with teammates. He's treating the entire offense to the Bahamas this upcoming weekend. Like, he's taking everybody there. It's for team building, football chemistry. He's secured the field. They'll be doing off-season workouts. I'm sure there'll be massages in there somewhere. That'll be built in. Nobody's confirming or denying any of that at this juncture, but that's just something that we all know. I don't know. We don't know if the former quarterback is invited or not. But it would be great if he participated. It was a team player that that he tries to make everybody else be. So shout out to my timeline and my group chat this weekend. It's about all the basketball that you'll hear me talk about. But I will probably have vested interest in watching the Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. Not gonna lie, it'll be the first time I tell you, I really hope Boston beats the Heat because because my boy Dibby really likes the Heat, and I'm taking that hater level, and I like my guy Reggie more than I like Dibby. Like Dibby, but my boy Reggie's a Boston Celtics fan, and I'm just taking it to the next step because I know Dibby doesn't like being trolled, so that gives me something to troll Dibby if the Celtics win. So there's that. Going into the next round of things. I did an NIL discussion with one of my favorite podcasters, Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. And we were just talking about so many of the issues, and he was impressed. I may have even brought him toward the NIL side a little bit more, just about the way that I can communicate it and effectively discuss it without being afraid and fearful. And I bring this up because everybody talks about the kids, and I bring up what Bobby Bowden said a lot. The kids have not changed. The kids are exactly who they've always been. It's the adults that have changed. And it's the attitudes that the adults have are a reflection in our children. So what does that mean, James? For years, we have seen coaches recruit kids under the guise, I'm going to see you graduate. Schools can fire those coaches on a whim. Those coaches can go do what's best for them and their families on a whim. The only thing more chaotic and more unpredictable than recruiting is coaching searches, because coaches say no, they say yes, they lie all the time. We see Nick, the greatest coach to coach college football. See Nick Saban. He told LSU he wasn't leaving to go to the Dolphins, and then he left to go to the Dolphins. He told the Dolphins he wasn't leaving to come back to Alabama, and that same day that he said that, he was on a private jet at 1:00 in the morning flying to Alabama in the middle of the night, getting out of Miami. So these coaches do what's best for them, and the mass and the public believe that that's great. But then they see kids, and they say kids have a lack of commitment. Ironically, Scott Frost, who's a coach at Nebraska, bashed the kid for leaving. With Scott Frost's resume shows him leaving, I believe, Stanford to go to Nebraska. Like, he couldn't handle the heat. And it was okay for him when he was a college student, but when other college students are doing it now, it's a problem. But here's where it comes down to. I've got guys like Randy Shannon that coach at Florida State. Randy Shannon has a polo from damn near every university in the state of Florida. Now, nobody gives a fuck about UCF or USF like that. But Florida State, Miami, and Florida, we have it's a pretty decent rivalry. Like, you're not supposed to just bounce like that. Not for the rival. That's not cool. Bigger than that, though, is, because Randy's there, Randy's at Florida State, whatever. Tim Brewster is another reason why these guys, I don't feel any sympathy for what these colleges and what these guys have to go through with the NILs and with the transfer portal. Because Tim Brewster has been at Florida State. He's been at Florida State. He's been at Texas A&M. He's been in North Carolina. He's been at Florida. Just since 2017. Again, let's just retract. Let's go backwards again. Jimbo left in 2017. 2018, he was at Texas A&M. Then he went to North Carolina. He was saying how the SEC is the best conference. He left Texas A&M to go to North Carolina. Now he's hyping up how the ACC is the best conference. He leaves North Carolina to go to Florida. Oh, man, it feels great to be back in the SEC, the best conference. And now you know where he's trying to come back to? come back home to Florida State in an analyst role. The Florida staff was fired. He needs to work. I'm not against the man earning a living. But what I am saying is, here's a guy that you're going to bring in that's going to be a recruiter. His job is to get kids to influence them to come. He can't tell a kid about loyalty because he doesn't know what loyalty is either. I don't think a lot of these coaches can be loyal to anybody, including their wives. They're on the road all the time. They're around kids. Their job is to influence young men to be able to come to their university, and that's it. They're agents, basically. They're mercenaries. Their job is to, like, they don't have loyalty. So you can only impart what you are. You can't tell these kids or these young athletes that they got to be loyal to something that the people who are in charge of them aren't loyal to. So when guys like Deion Sanders make these statements that they need to be able to hire more qualified men to be able to talk to these guys, because how can these guys be talked to when there's people that make more than them? Well, guess what? If you're genuine, you can. How can you talk to a guy and tell him about loyalty when you don't have any loyalty yourself? You might not be here next year. Actually, if you do it the right way, you should. Until you become a head coach, you probably should not be an assistant coach somewhere more than 2 to 3 years in the current landscape of what these guys are going through. But this make America great again mindset that people have for athletes, let's rewind it back. So, and I get it, the nostalgia that you have. Money wasn't in the sport like that at all. My position coach, Billy Sexton, was at Florida State for over 20 years. My head coach was at Florida State for almost 40. I knew what I was getting into. Like, they were there. They were there before I was even a twinkle in my daddy's eye. Like, now you got guys that are going to schools with coaches who are, one, only a few years older than them, and two, that really don't have any loyalty in themselves, because the nature of being seen in this landscape is you've got to bounce around. You got to go to multiple places, or you won't get it. That's the only way to get a job. And this is not picking on Tim Brewster or anybody like that, but it's just, how can you say that you really, really enjoy the game of college football and that you wish it was back the way it was, when you've got guys that you got coaches who are getting paid six figures, not the insinuation that somebody's getting paid six figures. They're actually making six figures, that you hold to a lesser standard than you do the 18 to 22-year-olds that are being leveraged in all of this. But again, I'm all for caps in capitalism. I think it's weird to say that, but if you're going to put caps on the athletes, let's hold these coaches to a higher standard. Caps on their salaries, caps on if they leave, they got to sit out a year, or they get one, or just make it to where kids can only transfer with free reign when a coach is fired or a coach leaves. And they can be the head coach and be whatever you want. But I think too many of these, especially with these kids committing to coaches on an early signing period, they end up leaving and going somewhere else right after they commit. I don't think that's right. I think that's just not good at all.
They're using virtue to oppress the students, a virtue that they can't keep themselves by nature of their job.
And by nature of being human and adult. Very few people can say, like our grandparents, that they were on the same job for 25 years. They're on the same job for 40 years. If it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. Like, you have to pick what you want. I won't let you dilly-dally or ride the fence on this. You're either for capitalism or you're not for capitalism. You're either for this virtue shit or you're not for this virtue shit. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it. You got to pick what you want, man. And I get it. You guys, it sounds good, but it's really not. And it's not up to you. I mean, you can bitch all you want, but at the end of the day, it's not your money, so it doesn't affect you. So, and shout out to John Ruiz. Every day, John Ruiz is getting lit up. John Ruiz, you might be the next 4 or 5. You should run for president.
Oh no,
that's looking like he might not be. He doesn't pay his bills. He's not a Lannister. Lannisters pay their debts. But I will say, on the trolling perspective and on the trolling front, him and this guy, some dude from Florida, have been getting into it on social media. And he says he's going to give a deal to like their third string long snapper, and he did. He announced it. He announced the University of Florida has their long snapper has an NIL deal with Life Wallet, which I think is smart. So, not smart for the kid. I don't really care about that. Smart for Ruiz because Ruiz was about to get blasted about how his NIL deals were only benefiting University of Miami players. So this kind of diversifies it.
Yeah.
Gives you an argument that you're a legitimate company. And,
I'm more wondering how he did it. It's a long snapper.
Oh, I think it's a troll. And it's an awesome troll when you have money or access to do stuff. So shout out to him for that. And I guess we're going to go into a really, really long hate o'clock. This hate o'clock is going to take various ways, different paths, because it's a lot of things that are going on in media. And hate o'clock is brought to you by Green Acre Sporting Goods. Green Acre Sporting Goods is the go-to outdoorsman place. You like guns? They got them. Got a lot of them. Got bullets. You like knives? They got a lot of them. You like bows and arrows? They got them. Boats? You like fishing? You like safes? You need a gun safety class? They got everything, man. You just got to go over there, holler at my guy Z, or any of the guys very well knowledgeable. They'll take care of you. Tell them Sports Den sent you. They'll give you, the nice black pen to sign off on the paperwork. But they got the 9mm. They got Taurus 380. Excuse me. They got the Glocks. They got all. Ready, Mom? Yep. I'm going to coach you up for what you need. I believe everybody in 2022, you need to do these things. You need to go take the concealed carry class. Yeah. You need to get you a pump shotgun. Get you a 9mm. Those are perfect things for self-defense. And if you want to go get the ARs and all the other cool toys, those are great. But just remember, if you're ever in a situation where you're in a shootout, it's not about who's got the sexiest gun. It's not about who's got the fanciest gun. It's about getting home to your people. And they have plenty of options, and they won't sell you short or oversell you for making sure that you get back to your families. I won't bury the lead. And because hopefully the other ones will kind of get us back to where it's a little bit lighter to end the show. But we live in a world, and this isn't new. It's only more popular because of social media and the 24-hour news cycle. We live in a world where people perpetuate fear. And they put things out that aren't true. Something that I've heard before. Actually, I'll go with a couple of different jokes. The first joke that's gone viral, and this guy made a great point. He says 50%. He's like, I heard a stat that 50% of all murders are committed by African Americans. So I heard it on Fox News. And he's like, but I'm confused. Why did I hear it on Fox News? Because 93% of the people that black people kill are black people. We ain't killing y'all. He's like, so when y'all come and you clutch your purse, he's like, I'm offended because you're in the way. I'm trying to kill the person behind you. And I say that as a joke, and I also come up to this one. If black people were as violent as portrayed and as evil and as, unlawful savages as we're portrayed, I think the United States would have been on fire because the payback in which people are so afraid of would have been happened. But when you really look at it, the situation, we're probably too docile, too fearful, partially because we don't really know our roots, don't really know where you can go if you fuck the whole thing up. And nobody really wants to be more American or treated more American than African Americans. Look at everything that's happened. And even all of the progress that's happened for minorities that, our plight gets watered down and diluted on. The Civil Rights Act, Other races weren't really getting their asses whipped and beat up like that, like black people were in the 60s. But the black people stood up and fought for everybody's things. When you look at how systematically, anytime somebody tries to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, how often it's fucked with. From Tulsa, from Rosewood here in Florida, from the city that literally a lake in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area, was built on top of. Lake Lanier used to be a thriving, bustling African American community before somebody came in, before whites came in and ripped that bitch apart. Really, most African Americans just don't want to be fucked with. Like most Americans. Most Americans want to be able to go earn a living for their family, get back home to their family, and not be fucked with during the time that they're doing it. But that brings us to too many times in my recent history. You've had the Charleston shooting with Dylan Roof in a church where black people went to go worship. One of the things that should be equal in a country where everybody says we're such a Christian nation, everybody should be appalled and want vengeance when your right to be able to honor or praise the deity that you respect and revere gets interrupted with death. When you look at what happened in Buffalo, at a shopping market that was strategically placed in what happens too often in very many African American communities considered food deserts because they don't meet the demographics of what your Publix is or what your major places want to be, but people actually made a concerted effort to put that there. And it was bustling. It was a place where a lot of people went to go, a place where you shouldn't fear for your life when you're going to get fucking cabbage. A place where you should not fear. And I'm a two-way guy. This is a two-way segment. And you should be able to carry wherever you want to. But when I have to wonder, if I have to get strapped to go to get some fucking milk for my child, are we really free? And my hate o'clock in this isn't so much on the young man who took people's lives, the 18-year-old that went in with nigger on his automatic rifle. It went and was so meticulous with the people that he shot that when he saw a white man that he pointed the gun at and he recognized, he said, "I'm sorry," and that he pointed the gun at him, it went back to attack the black people. This kid was 18 years old. This kid can't even say, he hasn't even lived life long enough to have had a truly bad experience with black people to where you're that hateful. This is taught behavior. In a world where we talk about CRT, critical race theory, in a world where we talk about, I don't want my child going to school where he's upset and he's angry that he's a white person because he learned about some fucking history. In a world where you're trying to change the narrative to make you feel good, you still have this. History, as a history major, when I really learned some raw shit in college, history on a prep level is taught like blacks had a bad year at summer camp, or America was wilding out in its teenage years. That's what it's taught like. It's very vague and it's very like with nothing. There is no American exceptionalism was taught in schools. Not that we did wrong. Now, what we do learn is the horrors of the Holocaust. We know how bad that shit was, and it was. But they don't teach slavery in the same breath that they speak about the horrors of the Holocaust. We don't talk about when we came over here and what happened to the Indians in the same breath. We don't talk about the Trail of Tears in the same breath as we talk about the Holocaust, the numerous things that we've done here. And again, this is not about hatred. What I'm saying is this shit hasn't been taught, but yet you still have young white males that decide that they hate another race so much that they go out and kill people. Old people. People they've lived their whole life not wondering if they're going to go die. This is the way that they end it. It's extremely sad. I think as a guy who has a grandmother that I love dearly. What would happen if my grandmother, who's the same age as this lady, Ruth Whitfield, one of the victims, is 86 years old. Her son is the former Buffalo Fire Commissioner. She had just left her husband, who was in a nursing home, who she was taking care of while he was in the nursing home, just to go get some groceries on her way home. Now that son lost a mother and his father lost a wife because somebody was taught hatred. Aaron Salter Jr. was a security guard, a former cop. Blue Lives Matter. He was murdered and gunned down. Pearl Young, 77 years old. 25 years she fed people in the Central Park neighborhood of Buffalo. She gave. A 32-year-old who was just in town spending time with her family was murdered. A 65-year-old breast cancer survivor with 7 grandkids was murdered. A deacon at a church for my Christians was murdered. Andre McNeil, a father, was murdered, and he was just going to the supermarket to buy a fucking birthday cake for his 3-year-old. Catherine Massey, 72 years old, civil rights advocate, educator, just went grocery shopping. 62-year-old Miss Chapman was murdered. Mr. Morrison, 52-year-old father of 3, murdered. A 20-year-old, a 50-year-old, another 55-year-old were injured. And I'm not even here to tell you that we need to have gun rights restricted, because I don't think I agree with people when they say New York has some of the stiffest laws, and that didn't stop that. This guy drove to Buffalo. He targeted, but this 18-year-old had enough time to write a manifesto, do his research. The year before, he threatened to shoot up his school.
Shit.
He had all the signs that this kid was a fucked up individual. And all you did was play around with it. And then when you look at the rhetoric that is spewed by the fucking adults that want to split and divide people, this is the true fear. See, let me tell you what happens right here. Black people say, well, what about black on black violence? What about it? You know what happens if somebody black murders me? That motherfucker going to jail. He's going to face the full force of the law. He's not going to get, and the person who does it is not going to get taken in gently, more than likely. He's not going to get he's not going to get a chance to go get some fucking shitty fast food. For the joke that the comedian made that I brought up in the beginning, we don't go to your fucking neighborhoods and shoot them shits up. We don't even get a chance. This is the wild part, is we are so inviting that just the idea that somebody of another culture wants to come in and hang out, you get that opportunity. As opposed to guys like me who have gone to Ponte Vedras in this area, this is some years ago. Doesn't happen as much anymore, but it did happen. Where I'm just going to do my fucking job to go train some kids, and I get pulled over because I don't look like I belong in that area. See, we don't even get the opportunity to even just go in there because people suspect bullshit. You don't have to worry about a black teenager going up and shooting up a mall or a movie theater in white suburban neighborhoods. the problem isn't so much the threat, because most crimes are crimes of proximity, and they happen with people, and people, because of the way America was built for centuries, we all tend to still live in the areas in which we either grew up or what we know until you get pushed out. That's called gentrification for a lot of you people who don't really know what that is. The problem is who is teaching you people to be so mad in a world that is really designed for you? This kid has rhetoric that basically states that the only two races that need to control the world are whites and East Asians. And they don't need to intermingle, they need to rule separately as friends. It's you who have taught this superiority. It's you that is pushing down this bullshit about people are violent or people are this. It ain't the schools. It's you. It's you, the parent. And you know what's this is what needs to happen. We don't need restrictions on guns. What we need is true fucking accountability. It's not just as good enough for that kid to go to jail. How the fuck did he get that rifle? I bet this, if you, the parent, had to start doing time, I bet your ass wouldn't put that bullshit in your kid's head. I bet you'll I bet you'll take the more time to find out what the fuck he's watching, he or she's watching. I bet your ass will figure out who their known associates are a little bit more. If it's not you. You can't legislate morality, but you know what you can? You can curtail that shit. Because if you got to go to the booty house, daddy, for something that your dumbass son did, I bet you'll start whooping his ass when he starts saying dumb shit. The fucked up part is that for no reason besides white fragility, other people's lives have been changed. People have lost they have lost matriarchs, they have lost fathers, they've lost mothers, and right now that shit is traumatizing. And it bothers me. It bothers me to my core because you should not have to be strapped to a T to go grocery shopping. The only people who feel like that are the majority. And the world was built for you. And that's not even saying anything to be upset about. Again, I've talked about privilege on this show and in numerous platforms before. I have no problem with privilege. You just got to recognize it. At least understand that the world, I have athletic privilege.
Yeah.
I understand that the world that I lived in as an athlete was built for big ass fast dudes to dominate. I wasn't giving up my fucking privilege because your kid was born pint-sized. If the battlefield is even or level, you did a shitty job of preparing it. I have no problem with you having that. What I have a problem with is if people is choosing to misunderstand that. I have a problem with having a military spouse. I have a problem with your fetish, with your this fetish that you fucking have. The motherfucker had on fatigues, like he was going to war. The problem is your pussy ass won't go to fucking war for real. They'll fight a real enemy.
Yeah.
But you'll go fight somebody in a neighborhood that ain't got shit to do with you. I would even have more respect if he was a Buffalo native and he was on the north side and he said, I hate these black people on the south side. I don't know what side of town I'm on, but I hate these black people on the south side. They're bringing shit down. No, what you did was you drove somewhere. And again, I understand the dynamics of what Kyle Rittenhouse did and why he got off. But this is the danger in glamorizing that and letting motherfuckers like him get off. Because no matter what happened, and the same thing, just got to understand what happened with George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman picked the fight, but he was getting his ass whooped. And the law states that you can use a stronger force. But had he listened to the fucking 911 operators that told him it's not your job to pursue this person, a person maybe Trayvon just gets arrested. He doesn't die. But when you let these guys go off, it gives other people the impression that they can go do it too.
They're terrorists.
Because this kid got in the car, drove to Buffalo, and what's the cowardice part is you picked a grocery store because, and you say you wanted to do it because, because of the gun law, and you picked a state where the gun laws are so strict that to even have a true weapon in New York, you got to probably be doing something illegal anyway. It's like the guy who killed the young man down the street from my house. If you don't know, I live in a very, very, very nice subdivision in Jacksonville, Florida. The only crime that we've had in my subdivision was a white man found his white wife cheating on him, and he killed her and himself. Outside of that, ain't shit happening in my neighborhood. My neighbors are too goddamn nosy for shit to happen anyway. But down the street, and I used to go to this Starbucks right by it. Every time I get gas, I still think about it. This guy opened fire into a car of kids that were playing music too loud. And he said he felt threatened. The problem with this coward, that coward too, and now he got arrested and probably got death. I think he's on death row. The problem with that coward was that if he would have went up 3 exits to a gate gas station off Emerson, or if he would have went to the gate gas station off 45th and Moncrief, and you open up fire, you're going to get everything that you fucking want back. That is my problem with these cowards. Jordan Davis, yes, my bad, because he's got the same name as the big D tackle from Georgia that's with Philly. My problem with you cowards is that you pick the areas where it's not docile. Like, you want to be bad? Cool. I got no problem with that. You want to eliminate some threats? Go shoot the gangbangers. Go in the fucking hood. But you'll never do that. But that's not just for the white people that feel the need to kill black people. You fucking goons. To that statistic that I talked about. You'll kill a black man that says some shit about fucking your mother. Some shit that you know is never going to happen. But you won't do anything to these people that literally go and will shoot your mother. Oh, we got to get the ops back. But you won't, you'll kill the people who look like you, who got the same struggle, but everybody else gets a bypass. You're super badass when it comes to that. And the problem is, again, for all parties involved, you're so badass when it comes to other races or what you feel is discrimination from other races, but you won't defend. You're so badass when it comes to that, but you won't go after the right ones. I just, for the life of me, don't understand where this shit comes from. Why are you so angry at 18 years old? That is taught. Again, I got people worried about my son learning about fucking lesbians and transgenders. I got people worried about my son growing up to hate white people because he's learning history, but yet we got white kids that are consistently going around here killing other people of other races because of their hatred that was truly learned. But yet, I got to answer to my son. I got to tell him that this isn't how everybody is. And you know what he's going to ask me? Because the motherfucker is logical. Well, Daddy, how do I know which ones to trust? He's got good ones around his godfather's wife. But more importantly, where are we as a society when I got to go, everywhere I go, I got to hold. I got to be strapped. I got to try to position myself to be the good guy with the gun when I should be able to do routine shit and not have to worry about it. Like, one of the jokes is like, if I got to be in it, like when my father called me and said, hey, B, if you're ever in a situation and you got to shoot person, you got to make sure you kill everybody. And I'm like, if I'm in situations where I got to kill everybody around, well, God damn it, I don't need to be there. But that's easy to say, But then they're shooting up grocery stores. They're plotting them. They're shooting up movie theaters, which was years ago. Shooting up elementary schools. Again, I'm not knocking or saying that the violence that happens in our communities, not just black, because we are Americans. Everybody wants to say, ain't we all Americans until the shit gets split up. But I know what I do in my community. I know why that happens. I know why. It's a fiscal thing. You taking resources away from them. That when you're in a poor mentality, you're in a people talk. It's a crabs in a barrel mentality. But nobody wants to talk about crabs. Natural environment isn't a fucking barrel. But what I can't understand is why somebody wants to go from another environment to go shoot said crabs in a barrel. And don't miss me with the mental illness shit. It's always mental illness when some shit like happens like that, but it's never. But you know what? It's mental illness when that happens, but you can't see that it might be mental illness when you're going around shooting up and killing the people who look like you too. Right. He's a grown up. He's dead. You know what the kid said? Who he got it from? I listened to Tucker Carlson. I listened to this person. But you people would want to come and talk about blame rap music. Like violence didn't occur on the Mayflower. What the fuck was they listening to when they rode up on America the first time? And Beethoven? Beethoven, motherfuckers was gooning to Beethoven. Heavy. My heart goes out to the people in Buffalo. To those of us who have fucking sense, it is time for us to stop acting like we're in fucking political games and stop trying to use words that are so divisive and start coming together, because you're either coaching it or you're fucking allowing it. You're worried about the wrong shit. Because as I've told people, I told my mayor, I told my son's other godfather, who's a fucking big time politician, some shit like that happens to my kid or somebody in my family, you ain't gotta worry about it. I believe in Mexican street justice. I'm killing his people and leaving him alive. And again, it's not even so much the want to have a threat. It's just why. Why is it even necessary? Which it shouldn't be.
And that's why the NIL and stuff like that can be so important. As a black man, you talk about crimes of opportunity. You want people to stop committing crimes if they have more opportunity, if they have more things to protect, if they have their own wealth.
Mm-hmm.
They're not out doing foolishness.
I won't lie to you. The reason why a lot of people they haven't gotten their asses whipped is because I have kids. I have somebody to come home to. I have people who I am responsible to. People I owe a debt to. And that's, it happens when you grow up. But on a lighter note, Stephen A. Smith is fucking up again. Stephen A. Smith is said the Suns lost because, and he named about 2 players that don't even play for the Suns anymore. Like, he's just, that's just Stephen A. Smith. But I'm going to get into this thing, and I heard about it on The Breakfast Club, and he said a Jacksonville woman. And I didn't know why the Jacksonville woman was on this but I know this Jacksonville woman. She was famous right when I started getting back into Twitter. Her name is Brittany Jones. And she became famous because she has like a bald head or a low haircut. And she was giving dome to a guy. And they were like, is this the best that you've ever seen? And then she went and parlayed that fame into, I think she was in a porn video. She's a stripper here in Jacksonville. Blah, blah, blah. It was all sex, womenism, feminism, sexual revolution, blah, blah, blah. I hadn't heard from her, and I actually have a friend who that girl jammed up and got, the guy, his friend fucked up, and that's why he got the divorce. But he was paying her, and he stopped paying her, and then she told his wife, and so he lost everything. Because that's Women, I've never really understood that. Maybe somebody offline could tell. What does the scorched earth philosophy do for you? Because you're not gonna get the money anymore. But like now that you left somebody else kind of like out to dry, you hung somebody else out to dry. Is that like what do you get out of that? But whatever. Brittany fell off, but now she's in the news again. For what she's good at, sex. But she broke into a man's house to give him head. So she's being charged with sexual assault. And, this is where I joke about misogyny. Misogyny is only bad when it doesn't benefit women. But the same misogynistic culture that women hate is what gives them the sympathy, where people are making jokes about like, well, shit, I wish I'm gonna leave my house, my door unlocked. She just come in. Like, if the fact that we can make jokes and make light of this shows you where we really are as a society. And really, women, you don't want equality, you want equity. You just don't know how to say it right. You don't want to lose your femininity. That's what gives you the defense in this. That's what we haven't talked about Meg Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez thing yet. And I try to stay out of it, but the femininity of Meg Thee Stallion is being on full display without realizing that. And I'm not on no Kevin Samuel shit because I think Meg Thee Stallion is fine as shit. But she's 5'10", 180-something pounds, bro. I think 200. She's built like a linebacker. A fine one. Tory Lanez, it's like 5'3", 120. He's a petite male. Like, if you read the police report, you would think that the police kind of put the wrong sex behind the height and the weight. Just think about it like this. If a 5'3", 120-pound woman were going up against a 5'10", 5'11", 200-pound male, and you heard that she shot him, you would be like, oh, well, shit, no duh. That's a big-ass motherfucker. Like, you should shoot him. But because you hear it's a man versus a woman, you're like, oh, well, wait a minute. To come to find out that the motherfucker ain't have no bullets in her ankles. She stepped on glass. That's why she was bleeding. A lot of other stuff that's starting to come out slowly but surely. But the femininity of Brittany Jones is what's keeping her out of jail. But that there's that, and then my last one. It's still funny because again, the funniest part is I was just asking about Brittany Jones and what happened to her. But lastly on this, and we'll end, and like I said, man, I wanted stuff to be a little bit lighter in regards to all of this stuff. But it's not a hate o'clock. Actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and say shout out to FSU women's softball for winning the ACC championship, getting the second seed in college softball championships. Like they'll field of 64, hosting the regional. All they got to do is get there, get out to the super regional. They'll do their thing. Michaela Edenfield with Micanopy 1851. Shout out to her. Shout out to Kaylin DeLoach, Florida State athlete who just was a part of a big football camp in Savannah with his dad, Rob DeLoach. Again, positivity is what you want to see. Excellence in sports and academics is what we also want to see. Really love seeing guys do things the right way, and it's a small world. I mean, it's a short time to live. Do the things that you want to do, man. Be the change. And stop being negative about stuff. Like, even as we talk about Buffalo, there's a group. I never understood that the group of black guys that all dress up and you see them in a flash mob. I did not know that was a major networking event. But, like, we got black people bashing that. Like, white people bashing that when guys are just trying to portray positive images. like step away, pay attention to what the real things are. And again, let's try to unite and come together as a society. Stop trying to count other people's chips. We're in a world where we need more. We need more people making more money in innovative ways. So, on that note, continue to please support the podcast. Check us out on SoundCloud or any streaming service. It will be uploaded sometime this afternoon. Check out the YouTube channel. Still need you guys watching that. Need to get these views up. Check out a like, a quote tweet, or retweet or share the link. Hurts nobody. We're going to try to get these things broken up into 1-minute clips again so that you guys can see these things. But, man, really appreciate all the support, all the different things going on. Continue to stay tuned to what we're doing with thehumidor.com, Goodfellas Cigar Lounge, and Green Acres Sporting Goods. Support all the sponsors. Again, that's the easiest way to keep shows like this on the air. Appreciate you guys. Y'all have a good Monday.